From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Monday, March 31st, and here are today's headlines. Governor Phil Scott took executive action on Friday to extend motel voucher stays for some unhoused Vermonters through June 30th. The extension is for families with children and certain people with acute medical needs. Without it, this group of unhoused Vermonters would have faced restrictions and, for some, eviction starting tomorrow. That's when the vouchers program loosened winter rules were set to expire for the season. Scott's order leaves out a broad swath of people currently eligible for the emergency housing benefit, including Vermonters over the age of 65, people fleeing domestic violence, and people displaced by flooding. That means those individuals will still be subject to strict time limits on motel stays starting tomorrow. Some key Vermont lawmakers say they would consider an increase in state income taxes in order to offset potential federal funding cuts. Brattleboro Representative Emily Kornheiser is the Democratic chair of the House's top tax committee, and she says proposed federal cuts would be used to fund tax breaks that disproportionately benefit high-income earners. And she says a progressive increase in state income taxes could both soften the financial blow to Vermont and prevent the wealth gap from widening.
As we continue our work, I'm going to hold those values of wanting to live in a state where we have as much fairness in our communities as possible, where folks are looking out for each other, and I think the tax system is a great way to do that.
Republican Governor Phil Scott says he's not prepared to say whether Vermont should consider revenue increases to offset federal funding losses. Meanwhile, federal funding cuts already appear to be more tangible for the Vermont Department of Health, which was told last week that millions of dollars in grants were suddenly canceled. That includes nearly $7 million to support vaccine programs, to detect and prevent infectious diseases, and to address health disparities in the state. Vermont's Department of Mental Health is also set to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Similar cuts have occurred at state health departments across the country after the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced it would cancel more than $12 billion in grants. There are some big disagreements, but few bargaining sessions remaining as the support staff union at Central Vermont Medical Center negotiates its first contract with the hospital. The union represents around 500 staff members. And bargaining team member and licensed nursing assistant Ashley Copeland says they want safe staff-to-patient ratios codified in the contract.
The LNAs have been burnt out and overwhelmed with 14 to 18 patients on a regular basis.
Copeland says the union has proposed a ratio of 7 to 9 patients per LNA, but a hospital spokesperson says predictable ratios are hard to enforce, and that staff committees have historically been the best way to address the issue. House lawmakers want to use a portion of Vermont's opioid settlement fund to help people struggling with addiction to stimulants. Health Commissioner Dr. Mark Levine says substances like cocaine and methamphetamine have become the most recent wave of substance use disorder in Vermont. And he says rewarding people with gift cards for passing drug tests is one promising approach to treatment.
It does not have a drug treatment. It has a more reward reinforcement treatment, working with those reward centers in the brain.
The House approved legislation Friday that includes $800,000 for the gift card program. The bill also appropriates $1.1 million for a future overdose prevention site in Burlington. Coming up, Vermont's career and technical centers are drawing a lot of student interest these days, bucking the trend for public schools in the state overall. Vermont Public's Lola Dufour explains why after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from VITA, supporting business growth and innovation in the Green Mountain State. From agriculture to manufacturing, energy to food production, find solutions that turn your business dreams into reality. Visit VEDA.org and see how VITA can help make it happen.
You've heard it before, Vermont's schools are short on kids. It's basically the same story in every community. But there's one kind of public school where that's often not at all the case. Vermont Public's Lola Dufour has the story about a surge in interest in the state's career and technical centers.
Thank you. So general rule of thumb, morning, Kaz, is any red door is considered Spalding High School. Any blue door, blue space is considered Central Vermont Career Center. We do share a space with them.
I'm in Barrie at the Regional Tech Center. It serves 6 schools in the area, including Spalding High School, with which it shares a building. Abby Allen, the school's counselor, is taking me on a whirlwind tour. With us is Victor Taft, a junior in high school. And when we get to the electrical shop, a large warehouse-like room with wood framing that students put up themselves at the beginning of the year, Taft explains what they've been up to.
What we're currently working on is going to be like a hospital room project. That's all done. An EMT has to have 8 outlets. 2 of them have to be emergency outlets in case the power goes out. So we're going to wire those differently. We each have our
That kind of practical, hands-on work, overseen by a licensed master electrician, will put Taft on the fast track to a career that the Vermont Labor Department anticipates will see over 1,000 openings in the next 10 years.
After electrical, you get your year 1 apprentice. So I'd only have to do 3 more years to become a journeyman, and then 2 years of being a journeyman, then I'm a master. So I'm already getting a really good head start to be licensed.
So you're basically getting your first year apprenticeship done here?
Yep.
Eventually, we land in the school's auto shop, where students learn how to do things like oil changes, multi-point inspections, and tire balancing. And one of the first things I notice is that it's not all boys.
Yes, there is definitely a gender mix in this program. I believe we have 6 females in this program, which is the most that we've had in automotive, at least during my time, I believe, for our instructor as well.
And there's something else interesting happening to the applicant pool in this tech center's automotive program. It's not just diversifying, it's growing a lot. Automotive tech has been popular for a while now. Back in 2019, the school received twice as many applicants as they could accept. But last year, 77 kids applied for 16 spots. That's nearly 5 times as many as the school can actually take. Let that sink in. Admission to Central Vermont's high school automotive tech program is more competitive than, say, admission to the University of Vermont, the state's most selective public college.
Our CTE Center directors talked a lot about how parents and students contacted them during and immediately after the pandemic to talk about jobs that seemed pandemic-proof.
That's Ruth Durkee, the Director of Career and Technical Education for the Vermont Agency of Education.
Or very safe to pursue in New England, as they saw people who didn't have work or as they saw things change, what are the jobs that definitely are needed that pay really good wages?
Not every CTE center or program is thriving, but in general, statewide, enrollment is up. It was strong before the pandemic, despite general declines in the high school-aged population. But now, after COVID, the number of kids signing up for technical education is on a steady upward trajectory. Taft has noticed this newfound interest, including among his friends, and he has a theory.
A cultural shift, personally, because college was so pushed. Now people are seeing that there's a lot of other really good ways and a lot more fun ways to make money.
I heard this idea a lot while reporting this piece, including from some of Taft's classmates, but also from CTE directors from elsewhere in the state, like Leanne Wright at the Northwest Technical Center in St. Albans. Her tech center is running waitlists in more programs than she's ever seen in her 13-year tenure.
The 4-year college that used to be, push, you got to go to college for 4 years is now not the norm.
This turn away from 4-year degrees and toward the skilled trades isn't unique to Vermont. Last April, the Wall Street Journal dubbed Gen Z the so-called tool belt generation. And Wright is gratified that career and technical education is finally getting the attention and respect that it is due. But meeting this newfound demand brings its own difficulties. Because while you probably know it's tough to hire an electrician, plumber, or welder nowadays, try hiring one that is willing to take a pay cut.
We are challenged with finding qualified teachers because they can make a salary in those trades that far surpasses what an educational salary is.
With acute workforce shortages across the skilled trades, a renewed interest in such work is hopeful news for homeowners, the state's beleaguered construction industry, and healthcare providers. But in Vermont, at least for now, A lot of that interest is landing eager students on wait lists and not training programs. For Vermont Public, I'm Lola DeFore.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Carly Berlin, Peter Hirschfeld, Lexi Krupp, and Elodie Reed. Our executive producer is Kevin Trevelyan, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
Each morning, it's a new opportunity, a chance to start fresh. Up First from NPR makes each morning an opportunity to learn and to understand. Choose to join the world every morning with Up First, a podcast that hands you everything going on across the globe and down the street, all in 15 minutes or less. Start your day informed and anew with Up First by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts.